So this little journey involves answering the question, where do you want to go? Also known as where the fox at? In Alice in Wonderland, Alice came to a fork in the road and said, "Which road do I take?" she asks. "Where do you want to go?" responded the Cheshire Cat. "I don't know," Alice answered. "Then," said the cat, "it doesn't matter. Where do you want to go?" And after that, and then, and after that, begin with the end in mind. If you have a physical copy of the book Free Me, you're probably guided to read this end chapter before chapter 1 for 3 reasons: curiosity, laziness, and impatience. We all have those and other attributes at our core, and they can be positive if used properly. That's the subject of the chapter to answer the question, why do we do that? That would be the 3rd chapter. It's human nature to be curious. You skipped here because you wanted to know the answer to the riddle, what is greater than God, more evil than the devil, the rich need it, the poor have it, and if you eat it, you will die. It's also human nature to be goal-oriented. Your goal is to find the quickest, in other words, the most impatient and easiest or laziest way to get the answer to the riddle. We should always begin with the end in mind. If you're looking for answers to the riddle, it's in the following invisibly inaudible sentence. It is silence, also known as a small space where you listened to nothing. The answer to the riddle. If you could go to any geographic location for 1 week, where would you go? That's a great question. This series of audio is put together in an interconnected way to demonstrate the fun point of interconnectedness. I'll try to put a link into each note section to the next connected section, but I'm not recording them in order, so some will connect with them the next big question instead of the subtext in question. This chapter is about questing. Questions are the origin of the word questing. Albert Einstein said, quote, "The important thing is to not stop questioning." Okay, we are at the subsection of where do you want to go? The first sub-question being, are questions the most powerful tool for guiding your life? Rudyard Kipling, one of my favorite British poets and authors, said, "I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who." If you could live the life of any historical figure not living in the magical present, who would it be? One of my favorite historical figures is Leonardo da Vinci. He was considered one of the world's greatest Renaissance geniuses. Da Vinci was a famous observer of the world, and he kept his thoughts in his famous notebooks. In Michael Gelb's book, How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, he gives 7 principles of how to think like Leonardo. They range from Leonardo's notebook celebration for an insatiably curious approach to life, curiosita, to the recognition and appreciation for the connectedness of all things and phenomena. Leonardo was known as an artist, inventor, philosopher, magician, and musician. He was supremely curious about all aspects of life and our world and asked a lot of questions. Possibly the most curious thing on this planet is a human child. We should make an effort to keep our childlike attitude of questioning everything. One of the fundamental beliefs in Buddhism is that you should not believe anyone else's answers until you have asked the question for yourself. Asking yourself the questions is like taking the mind on a quest. Larry Dossey said, "When wandering and wondering are combined, they are more potent than when either is used alone. A quest is something that everyone should experience. It's more than an adventure. It's more than a treasure hunt. It's more than a puzzle. It's more than a philosophical musing. It's more than a geocache. It's more than a letterbox. It's a puzzling adventure hunt that encourages you to muse about, in this case, a philosophy of life. Physical quests to find objects are fun, and you can participate in a few through this channel if you visit the places in the videos. First of all, the audio is intended to take your mind on a quest to answer some significant questions for your own personal growth and fun. Here's an abbreviated definition of a quest from the online encyclopedia updated by the public called Wikipedia. A quest is a journey towards a goal used in mythology and literature as a plot. Quests can be found in the folklore of every nation. In literature, the object of quests require great exertion on the part of the hero and overcoming of many obstacles, typically including much travel. This travel also allows the storyteller to showcase exotic locations and cultures, which may indeed be the writer's objective, if not the character's. Quest objectives. The hero's normal aim is to obtain something or someone by the quest, and with this object return home. The object can be something new that fulfills a lack in his life, or something that was stolen away from him. It can also be a lack in the life of, or something stolen from, someone with authority to dispatch him. The origin of the word wander, defined as going about without a fixed destination, is related to wind or air in motion. Wandering is perhaps the most basic form of exercise. Wandering is what we did as hunter-gatherers. It's what we do to experience novelty. Novelty is something that people crave, possibly as much as food or water. Wandering is similar to wandering within. It's to explore ideas in a new way. According to Larry Dossey in his book, The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things, there's much evidence that novelty and exercise are one of the most potent ways of keeping your mental faculties up to par. Exercise in the form of walking and novelty in the form of reading and doing puzzles are the specific examples he gives. Combining the two has become a recent fad called questing. If you're trying to create a therapeutic device to keep your mind sharp, questing would be a great fusion of form and function. What is the purpose of a quest? In this case, is to have fun and maybe learn something or share something. Yogi Berra, American baseball player, born in 1925, said, "If you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up somewhere else." The process of learning should not be the accumulation of answers, but rather finding how to formulate the right questions. If you want to know something, you need to know how to ask the right questions, like, what is it? Where will this question lead me? How do I need to prepare? When will I get there? Who will meet me along the way? Why should I start? Why not? Why not is the seventh on a serving man and the one that gets you off your ass to do something. The purpose of this quest is to think, act, look, listen, feel, experience, and have fun. If you put your focus into appreciating small fun things or events, you're on a road less traveled to happiness. Questions are a force that moves our minds. Questioning is the step that puts the mind in motion. If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? For many people, one of the most enjoyable features of the forest is the quiet. Quiet is not silence. There's very little silence in nature. Quiet, however, is what separates sounds from noise. Without quietness, sounds blend together to make noise, which is usually considered to be unfavorable. To perceive something that we consider favorable, there is something comparable that is unfavorable. What is favorable under some circumstances can be unfavorable under others. Light is nice, but not when you're trying to sleep. Silence, or at least quiet, is nice when you're contemplating and reflecting or trying to rest, but not when you're wanting an answer to a question. But sometimes silence is the best answer for a question. We'll be silent on that for now. You should understand the power of questions so you can use it to your advantage. Asking why can be the best thing or the worst thing you can do. Asking why about something can help reveal knowledge that will help one become wise. The wise can help you become wise. On the other hand, asking why about an event or an action or something someone has done or not done or said or not said can cause your mind to fabricate the most destructive answers possible. You can destroy relationships, future associations, opportunities, and one of the most important things in determining your happiness, your attitude. Be careful how you ask why. Questions are powerful. It's in our nature to be curious. Cats are symbols for curiosity. Curiosity doesn't always kill the cat. Sometimes it's the idiot neighbor's kid, and his name is why. If you often get depressing answers, you will stop asking questions. When you ask a question, your mind seeks an answer. Our minds are always shaded by previous experiences. No matter how hard we try, we cannot eliminate biases from the answers our minds come up with. If there is no true answer, the mind will fabricate one and then try to justify it with other circumstances or fabricated connections. This is partly true of questions that you can potentially ask about yourself. Why don't I quit smoking? Why don't I stick with my diet? Why do those employees steal from me? Why are they staring at me? Why doesn't he call me back? Why did so many people look the other way when 10 million people were murdered in the Holocaust? These are questions that will normally lead to answers that can never be totally right and more frequently are wrong, or will at least lead the mind in the wrong direction. Pay attention to the questions you ask yourself and others. It makes little sense to ask someone why they said or did something. They probably don't know exactly, and whatever answer they give will be interpreted by you possibly in a negative way, causing the spiral of negativity. If you have an opinion, which you do or wouldn't have the urge to ask why someone did or said something in the first place, it is more constructive to say something like, I understand you feel some reason to say, do not do this, or whatever. And I have felt the same way when something like that happened, but I found, and then tell them your opinion. It sounds formalistic, but at least trying to fit a response into the formula will make you stop and think before killing the cat. Then, as quoted earlier, there is the best way of dealing with opinions, as the famous Roman Marcus Aurelius said, take away your opinion, and there is taken away the complaint. I have been offended. Take away the complaint, I have been offended, and the offense is gone. You've probably heard someone say something about someone else that was not nice and then follow up with, oh, I'm just being honest. Honesty is not always the right thing or the best thing to say. Diplomacy is almost always better, and simple kindness is the best. Sometimes silence is the kindest thing. Music would be annoying noise if it weren't for the silent spaces between many of the notes. Remember, don't talk unless you can prove the silence. Sam Horn refers to this as tongue glue. She introduces some powerful questions used in conjunction with one of the most powerful sales tools, silence. When someone is being stubborn about doing something for you, pausing and then asking, so what do you suggest, often will get them to see your point of view. She also gives examples of reverse empathy, phrases like, what would you do if you were in my place? And how would you feel? Followed by silence to get the other person to see your perspective. Be careful with the questions you pose in your own thoughts. Most people judge someone in a few seconds after meeting them, and many times they're wrong. In sales, it's referred to as prejudging. Another way to say prejudged, or prejudiced. This is almost always a problem for salespeople at some point in their career, and sometimes all of it. I worked in Greece for a period of time. Salespeople there would constantly judge people's ability to buy from the quality of their shoes. So I put bonuses on selling people with poor quality shoes to try to overcome the prejudice. Because the salespeople only paid attention if the buyer had nice shoes, they didn't notice the buyers that didn't have nice shoes. After being able to point out to the group in several sales meetings that people with poor quality shoes also buy, possibly a better percentage of the cases, I remove the bonus. Um, Try not to prejudge from the beginning, and you will avoid trouble down the road. So, Mo invited his mother, Mrs. Lester, over for dinner. During the meal, his mother couldn't help noticing how beautiful Mo's roommate, Pussy Galore, was. Don't you love the James Bond girl's names? She had long been suspicious of a relationship between Mo and his roommate, and this only made her more curious. Over the course of the evening, while watching the two interact, she started to wonder if there was more between Mo and the roommate than met the eye. Reading his mom's thoughts, Mo volunteered. I know what you must be thinking, but I assure you, Mom, Mo and Pussy don't go together. About a week later, Pussy came to Mo and said, ever since your mother came to dinner, I can't find a beautiful silver gravy ladle. You don't suppose she took it, do you? Mo said, well, I doubt it, but I'll write her a letter just to be sure. So he sat down and wrote, Dear Mother, I'm not saying you did take a gravy ladle from my house, and I'm not saying you didn't take a gravy ladle from my house. But the fact remains, the one who's been missing ever since you were here for dinner. Love, Mo. Several days later, Mo received a letter from his mother which read, Dear son, I'm not saying that you do sleep with Pussy. I'm not saying you do not sleep with Pussy. But the fact remains that if she were sleeping in her own bed, she would have found the gravy ladle by now. Love, Mom. The point? Don't prejudge. If you could have one question answered, what would it be?